Hello, what's up guys? I'm Kyle from KGR. And shout out to one of my viewers, Dark Matt. Here he told me that apparently we're hitting 100 reviews. At least according to the playlist that I have for reviews, I'm hitting 100 real soon. And I've been on YouTube for I don't know how many years, and I've done apparently almost 100 reviews. I've done reviews on like shows and movies I remember I've done before, but about 90% of it was like toy reviews, whether it be like action figures or plushes for some reason back in my early days. And I wanted this review to be special, so I asked you guys what you wanted. Somebody said a Sonic figure, so that's probably gonna be next, but most of you want this. You guys want me to take another look at the Resaurus jetpack crash figure. I remember I had this as a kid, and it meant so much to me to like finally have it, and I was so excited to do a review on it on YouTube. That video has a couple of thousand views, so hey, 4 digits. But people have been asking me like to re-review it for a while, even before the 100 reviews. So let's take another look at it. And here he is in the red and blue plastic himself, Crash Bandicoot. Now this is one of my favorite figures of all time because it really does scream Crash too. Like, you got the red gloves and the red shoes, just like the box art. And I love how the ears are angled down, kind of like his idle animation when he's just standing there. And I want to talk about this more because I want to go over the paint, but like we gotta take him out of his little jetpack setup. So let's quickly go over what all he comes with before I go in depth on like how he looks. So when you get it out of the box, you get the figure set up like this, where he has the rubber gear on, but that's it, with the 2 pegs. And then we get the jetpack, which there are a couple of variants from what I noticed as a kid. Here on the bottom, you can see how the exhaust looks, and be honest, I don't like the way it looks. I think it looks kind of sloppy. Because I remember there was one where like it was like green in there, which I'm not sure how accurate that is either, but the paint job on it was like a good fade. Like, you see a little bit of paint and then it just fades off to, I don't know, black. Wow, this is just a big circle and then faded paint after that. It just doesn't look all that good. But other than that, I love the way this thing looks. And like, this is hollow, so it doesn't add too much weight to Crash, but it still throws off his balance a little bit, adding a little bit of top heaviness. Then we also get Akuaku, which he has the 4 holes up there. I don't really know what they're for. This is hard plastic, so he's not really rubbery. The later ones end up being rubbery in Series 2, but Series 1 only had the plastic ones. And I always loved the way this looked. Like, even though like he has, what, 6 feathers on him, I don't think that's really accurate, but I think it looks really awesome. I think this is badass. You also get a red crystal, which I know technically not game accurate, but it's still a crystal. It still looks cool. I like the way it's shaped. Like, the shape is very accurate. But if you do want to get a pink one, I think you have to get that through Tiny. But I remember having Tiny as a kid, but I wish I did, because man, Tiny's an awesome figure. Then we get the Wampa Fruit, which honestly is one of the coolest things. Like, it's squishy a little bit. Like, I can't say it's squishy. It's rubbery, so you can bounce it half decently well. But I don't recommend doing that. But I love the way it's painted. Like, it's crafted extremely well. Like, this is so cool. And it sucks that we don't even get that with the NECA figures, let alone getting NECA figures anymore. And then we also get a crate, and you also get some stickers with it as well. I have probably like 6 of these, and I even have one with stickers on it, but I forgot to grab the one with the stickers. But the box can come apart. One of the sides peels off somewhere.
A few moments later.
There we go. So yeah, you pull that up, and then there you go. So it looks like you just open a checkpoint, but then you have an extra side, which, oh well. Then it closes up real easily. I remember like when I found this out as a kid, like it like blew my mind. I'm like, oh my god, you can actually get inside the box. Wow! But anyway, back to Crash. Let's actually take him out of his little rubber gear, which the rubber could possibly tear if you are not too careful, but I don't remember having issues as a kid, so take that as you will. After you get it over one ear, it just becomes really easy to take it off. But be careful not to mess up the figure too much when you're taking it off, because you don't want to accidentally snap his hands off or something. But there you go. There's Crash right there. Now, there's 2 different variations of Crash. We have one where his back foot's flat like this one. Then there's another one where it's more angled. I don't know which one came first. I can't remember. I think the angled ones came later. But keep in mind that this is a different version. And I love the way this guy looks. Like, this is more based on like concept art, because you also see like how his shoulders have like a little bit of ruffle on them, because obviously you don't see that in the game. And then you see the little spots on the back, which they're kind of blurred out on the game, but if you see concept art, you see it there. And also you see the little rivets, the little stitching on the pocket, and like the side stitching on his jeans. I love this so much. I love his little smile. I love the way his fists are up. He looks like me when a new Crash game is coming out, like eeeeee! And even though Crash is technically orange and the Resaurus figures are typically red, I don't know, I just think it works for the most part. Whether that's accurate to you or not, like, I don't know, it's up to you. I think it's fine. And then we also get like the belly paint. Like, I love the transition in the paint from like going from belly to fur. I don't know. Apparently NECA can't do that, but this just looks natural and perfect. Now, when it comes to articulation on this guy, it's limited, but also very scary. Now, we do get a shoulder swivel, so it just goes forward and back like rah. And then we do get a wrist swivel, but whenever you mess with the wrist, please be very careful. Like, I would say warm it up with like hot water or, I don't know, a blow dryer or something. Pretty much loosen the plastic before you even mess with it, because if you just get it off eBay and you immediately go for it, I'm pretty sure over the years, it's been over 20 years since this figure's come out, there's probably so much dirt built up onto it that when you try to go to do it, it's like kind of stuck together, so it ends up just snapping off. So the wrist, you can turn side to side. It's just a peg, so you can go full 360 if you want, but honestly, if you have this, I personally wouldn't even touch the wrist. And then the legs, those were the ones where I had the most issues as a kid. Like, the legs always snapped off for me. But yeah, they go forward and back, but because it's pre-posed, making him move his legs is kind of awkward. And if you want to try and make him look like he's running, I guess you kind of can. Not the best, but you can. And I was also told that he has a waist swivel, which I went to do that, and I ended up snapping the figure in half. Was I sad? Very. But, you know, if he's just sitting there on a shelf, you won't be able to tell. So, yeah. That's why I said be careful with this thing. You're going to freaking break it. These things are so delicate. I'm pretty sure fine china lasts longer than his freaking figures. And also, he stands up relatively well. Like, as long as it's a level playing field, as long as you got a level table or something, whatever you're playing on, he does stand up just fine. But when you do add the rest of the gear, it gets a little bit top heavy, but not by much. Again, like I said, this thing is hollow, so they try their best to make it not top heavy, but you can only do so much. But I think it's fair to compare it to the other Crash figures. Right here, we got the Crash that you get from the Jetboard set, which is a completely different model. And I think they're both fun to have. Even though I feel like Jetpack Crash matches the art of the first game, the way he looks actually in the game kind of matches a little bit better here. I don't know. Crash has red shoes, but they give him black shoes on this one, which I don't know. And I also notice how the paint job on the hair is different on these guys. Like with the Jetboard one, it's like you can see a lot of red in it, while with this one, it's just dark. I can't tell if that's a dark red or if it's brown. I don't know what it is, but it's just a completely different color.
The phone is ringing.
But now let's compare it to the NECA Crash figure. I also realize it's a little bit too big. Let me adjust this real quick. Okay, that's a little bit better. Now, there's a lot of likenesses with the NECA and the Resaurus. Like, we see the teeth gritting and all that stuff, and the way the eyes are too. But the difference is quite vast. Like, for example, you can actually see Crash's eyes on a NECA. On Resaurus, you can't, which is fine by me, I guess. I think it looks fine. And besides, the way Crash looked in the game, you couldn't even see his eyes through the goggles. So that's not really a fault with the figure. It's just compare figures. Now you see it. But back then, it was perfectly fine. And then, like, you see, like, the jetpacks. And honestly, the jetpack on the Insane Trilogy one looks miles better, obviously, because there's a lot more detail. And they updated it since the game. But even comparing this one to the game, even though it's not as accurate compared to the NECA to the Insane Trilogy, I think it does a really good job of representing what the original game was like. But the one thing that the Resaurus does have over the NECA is that you can actually take off the gear and make it its own new figure, While with the NECA, you're stuck with Jetpack Crash. Technically, you can take all this off, but like he won't be having eyebrows or anything, and like you're pretty much gonna be like breaking all this off, and you gotta like undo the glue. But at the end of the day, is this figure worth picking up? Personally, I say yes, mainly if you want to be a little bit of a historian, like if you really like the original figures or just like the original games in general. Like this is a good figure by itself. But if you really want a good detailed Jetpack Crash, one, these things are fragile, so they're really not meant for kids. But if you really want to have a good looking Jetpack Crash, I mean, you have a couple options. You have this, you have the Pop now, which is probably the cheapest one out of all of them. And then you also have the NECA figure, which NECA figure you could probably find for like 25 bucks or so right now. While this guy, you're probably going to be spending probably $50 on average if you find him loose. Sometimes you find a good deal though. Sometimes you can find it for like 35 bucks or so. But having it with all of his accessories is not very common, and you know, finding him not broken and actually used so you can display it like this on the shelf, that's also very difficult. But a lot of the times you see ones in the box, and honestly, I love the way he looks in the box so much. I don't have one in the box yet, but give it time, I'll get there. Those guys, people are trying to get $100 out of it. If you really want to pay $100 for a Crash figure in the box, then by all means, I won't stop you, but personally, I'm too cheap to do that. But does the figure hold up? I still think he's worth grabbing. I still think he's cool, but now you have more options out there. But do I recommend this one over the NECA? That's your call. But like I said earlier, if you really like the way that Resaurus figures look, or if you really like the original Crash games more, then sure, go with this one. But keep in mind, this thing is as fragile as fine china. Be very, very careful with it. But if you have a hard time looking for this figure in particular and you just want a Jetpack Crash, there are more options out there, like I said. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you guys for 100 reviews on my channel, and there are more to come. I can't believe I'm at this point. I'm also at 8,000 subs, so that's neat. And who knows, maybe we'll get more. I don't know, we'll see what happens. But anyway, if you're new and you like what you saw, you know what to do. In the description, there's my socials. I really recommend you check out my Instagram, because if you like action figures, you will love the pictures that I take. And I guess I'll see you on the next one, so peace.